Most businesses think that simply throwing more money at Google Ads is going to improve results, but that couldn't be further from the truth because it usually leads to a lot of wasted spend from not having their campaign structured correctly. And in today's video, we're going to show you how to succeed inside Google Ads, even if you have a small budget to work with. And just for context, for example, even this campaign here, we're running with a budget of only €19 per day, which is far lower than we'd ever recommend using, especially for any trades businesses, but it still shows that it's possible to succeed inside Google Ads with a small budget. Now, the first thing you want to do when you have a Google Ads account, if you haven't started running ads already, is that when you're making a new campaign, the most important thing is that you're only using one campaign, because if you're already limited on budget, you do not want to be trying to spread that budget across multiple campaigns. Because if we want to get to a point where we gather enough conversion data to work with as soon as possible and switch over to smart bidding so that we can really make the most out of Google's AI to get us as much leads as possible, then that process is going to be so much quicker by having everything in one campaign rather than split into multiple campaigns, which I'd only recommend if you're running campaigns in completely separate areas and completely unrelated services in the first place, and also have a lot of budget to work with. So we'd only recommend using one campaign. And just to show you the type of campaign we'd recommend starting out with as well, is we are going to look for leads, assuming that this video is based on service-based businesses. And for these conversion goals, you set up your conversion tracking separately, and we have separate videos on the channel for conversion tracking, so we're not going to get into that in this video. But you can press continue and then press search. So we want to set up a search campaign, because especially when you have a limited budget, because you have a lot more control over the types of searches that you appear for. Whereas the other campaign types like Performance Max and Display, for example, Google can show your ads absolutely anywhere and aren't necessarily only going to be showing your ads to people that are actually interested in what you offer. So if you're limited on budget inside Google Ads, then I'd 100% recommend starting out with a search campaign. And then you can always scale with a Performance Max campaign over time, as long as you're actually happy with the results you've already gotten from search. And for the select the ways you'd like to reach your goal, then you can leave this blank if you're looking to set up responsive search ads, which is a regular search campaign, or just select phone calls if you're looking to make a call only campaign. And then just press continue, and you can name this campaign however you like. You can name your own company name and just press continue. Now, part of the biggest reason as well why I'd recommend starting out with one campaign only is because we want to optimize our campaign as soon as possible. And for almost all new campaigns would focus on generating as many leads as possible, I'd recommend starting out with maximized clicks at the very beginning to gather that relevant conversion data, and set a maximum cost per click bid limit on what you're willing to pay per an individual click as well. And the whole purpose of running with this bidding strategy is that we're going to gather a lot of relevant data on the types of conversions that we're looking to achieve, which is usually phone calls and form submissions if you're a service based business. And once we have 20 to 30 conversions, which we hope to try and get within the first month, if not a bit longer, then we'll then be able to switch across to maximize conversions and set a target CPA based on what we're already paying per lead at that given time, and then bring down our target cost per action from there. And if you were to run with maximize conversions and set a target CPA right off the bat, then the chances are it's going to take a lot longer for you to start getting leads, because Google doesn't have any relevant data to show that you can actually get a lead for this amount. Whereas if you actually have data of getting leads for this specific amount inside the account, then you're far more likely to start getting leads a lot quicker, and there's going to be no delay in overall performance. Now, when it comes to using maximized clicks and setting a maximum cost per click bid limit from the very beginning, you want to use Google's keyword planner to see, what I should actually set my max cost per click bid limit to. And you can see here that depending on the keywords that you're targeting in your specific area, that the minimum and maximum that any company is paying per click for those keywords in those areas can greatly differ. And what you want to do to try and gather as much data as possible is set your maximum cost per click bid limit as close to the high range as you can physically afford. So let's just say on average that, the maximum any company is paying per click is €10. Then you don't necessarily have to go straight to €10, but set it as close to this as possible. For example, €7 or €8. And that way, then you know that you're going to be able to get plenty of traffic from the very beginning. And we need traffic to be able to get conversions inside the account as quickly as possible. But you obviously don't want to be paying the very max amount that anyone's paying either, which is why we're setting a max cost per click bid limit, which is especially important if you're limited on budget. But now, another 2 points I really just wanted to mention as well, especially if you have a low budget to work with inside Google Ads, is that when you get to networks, you want to straight away make sure that search partners and display network are both away, not selected. And with your location targeting as well, you want to change this from presence or interest to just presence so that you're only targeting people that are actually in your target area. And you obviously want to enter another location as well, so you're not targeting worldwide. And you can add the specific area that you serve either by location name or by mile radius around that location. Because obviously, as a service based business, most of you can't serve the whole country. And so you obviously want to target the specific county or towns that you serve. And as well, if you're limited on budget, what you really want to make sure you do is make the most out of the keywords that you're targeting and only target the best keywords that you feel are most likely to actually convert into leads based on intent. So when you're in Google's keyword planner, what you want to do is just go to discover new keywords and firstly enter in the specific location that you're looking to target. So most of the time it's not going to be the full country, but you could just say, for example, a county like we're doing for maybe Dublin in this case, and then just press save and enter in some relevant keywords that make sense for what you offer. So let's just do this for plumbing, for example. We could say plumber near me and plumbing contractor near me, because we want to get keyword ideas that have high buying intent, and giving some ideas that mention near me are usually the most high buying intent keywords to target in the first place, because they indicate that the person is looking to get the job done if they're looking for someone near me. So you can press get results then. Now, we have separate videos as well on the channel that go into a lot more detail on how to find the best keywords to use, and we're also going to make a video tomorrow on how to use the keyword planner in detail as well. So we're not going to go into crazy detail in this video, but just to show you how to find like the right keywords to target, is that you want to make sure you choose the ones that actually have intent, and that when thinking about the customer on the other end, are they actually looking to get the job done? So just to show you some examples of high buying intent keywords that are worth including within your budget, will be plumber near me, plumbing contractor near me. Most of the keywords that say near me are always going to be worth targeting. Best plumbers near me, local plumber near me. But then you might have some keywords that aren't as good quality. For example, cheap plumbers near me. So these might be the type of people that are only going to be looking for the cheapest quote and usually not actually looking to get the job done as much. But plumbing companies near me, plumbers near me, residential plumbing repair near me, and so on. You get the idea that we want to just target searches that have high buying intent behind them. And what you don't want to be doing is targeting low buying intent, for example, informational searches that say things like how to, which indicates that someone might be looking to do a job themselves and not actually looking for a plumber. And as well, if you're limited on budget as well, I wouldn't recommend adding in keywords that say prices or cost, because these aren't as high buying intent as the ones that just say near me. And now they can work in a lot of cases, but I would just say that they're not as high buying intent as, your core near me and in my area type keywords. And another point worth making on the keywords that you choose to add as well, because if we're limited on budget, we don't want to be targeting a crazy number of keywords. And what you really want to think about doing at the beginning is what are the core one or two services that are most profitable to me. So let's just say you're a HVAC company, for example, and you offer services like boiler installation and boiler repair, then it usually makes more sense to target the installation related service rather than the repair service, because the margins could be completely different. For example, the average cost of a service might be a couple hundred for a repair job, but for an installation job, it might be worth a couple thousand. So you always want to think about what services is most profitable to me right off the very beginning. So in this case, you could type in things like boiler installation and boiler installation near me to find the most high buying intent searches for your most profitable service, so that you're really making the most out of the budget that you have. So you can see here then that you have keywords like boiler installation near me, but you also have things like boiler replacement as well, which you can make a separate ad group for, as the intent is more or less the same. But someone looking for a boiler replacement and sees an ad for replacement rather than installation is still more likely to click on that ad. But the whole point here is that you really just want to think about, what service is most profitable to me and revolve your campaign around that rather than trying to split your budget up into five or six different services that aren't as equally profitable. Now, what you want to do with your keywords as well, especially if you're limited on budget, is to use exact match keywords. So once you've added your high buying intent keywords like this that have near me, local companies near me, local near me, you can see the theme here that we try to just target as much high buying intent keywords as possible. that we want to have them as exact match. And the reason being is that if we had most of these as phrase or broad match keywords, then the actual search terms that we appear for, a lot of which would actually not be relevant to what we offer, because those match types are a lot broader and Google can show our ads for any searches that, are even remotely related to landscaping. Whereas especially when you're limited on budget, you only want your ads to be shown for searches that have the exact same intent or meaning as the keywords that you're targeting. So that's why we'd recommend using exact match keywords. And once you've added your keywords to your campaign, you can firstly either add them as exact match by putting square brackets around them, but an easier way is to select all your keywords and just choose exact match as the match type, rather than having to manually put square brackets around all of your keywords to make them exact match. What you also want to do as well to minimize any potential wasted spend is regularly go to insights and reports and then search terms to see the actual search terms that you've appeared for. And anything you see that your ads have appeared for that isn't actually relevant to, what you offer, you want to add those as negatives as often as possible just to minimize, any potential wasted clicks that you could be getting from these search terms. And you can see here as well when it comes to your ads that, you're always going to get recommendations from Google to add broad match keywords. But the only reason they do that is because they can show your ads for so many related searches, and most of which won't actually be very related at all if you add broad match keywords. So you don't need to follow all the recommendations that they give as well, which is probably another point worth mentioning on making the most out of a limited budget inside Google Ads. And when it comes to adding your negatives as well, you don't need to only do it through the search terms report, but you can also add negatives when you want, even in advance before you start running the campaign. And you can go from search keywords over to negative search keywords and press the blue plus icon to add as many negatives as you like. And just to show you some examples of low buying intent searches that can be added as negatives from the very beginning, the chances are if somebody's looking for how to, how much, price, estimate, free supplies, ideas, what is, do it yourself, anything like this, the chances are that they're not actually as interested in getting the job done as somebody looking for, service near me. And what you can do if you have a bunch of negatives like this that you can add in advance is simply copy your list of negatives that you want to add and then come back to Google Ads and go to negative search keywords. And you can add them like this without brackets as well, meaning that your ads won't appear for any searches that contain these words. So, for example, your ads won't appear for any searches that have the word what in it, whether it's at the start, middle, or end of any search term. And adding broad match negatives like this will just massively reduce the amount of irrelevant search terms that you appear for from the very beginning. And what you also want to do as well on a limited budget is optimize your ad copy, not to just achieve a higher click through rate, because if you're limited on budget, shouldn't necessarily be the goal to get as high of a click through rate as possible, but instead make it extremely clear what you offer inside your ad copy. So that way, anyone that's actually not interested in what you offer won't click on the ad in the first place, which is actually better than them clicking. Whereas somebody that actually is interested in, a landscaper, for example, they'll feel like they're in the right place when they see this, local landscaping expert headline. And what we're doing here is trying to attract clicks from those that are actually interested in what we offer and making it clear to those that aren't actually looking for a landscaper, that might be just looking for DIY related searches, that this isn't the ad for them, because it's not just going to give them some guide, but it's a landscaper that can actually help you and do the job for you. And this is why, especially when we're running responsive search ads like this, we like to use pinned headlines. So that way, our first headline can either be dynamic keyword insertion, which we also like to use a lot, but most importantly, for your first headline, that your first headline will always have keyword focus. So, for example, in this ad group, all of the keywords are highly related to landscaping and landscaper near me, landscaping company near me, and so on. And that's the first headline that they'll always see if they search one of those keywords and see our ad. Because I've often seen a lot of ads that are getting a lot of clicks but no conversions because they might be using, 15 unpinned headlines. And not to say that that strategy doesn't work, but this is just what we've preferred to use for our ad copies lately, especially. But, they might have a bunch of benefits here, like, 20 plus years experience, family owned and operated, and then those are the two headlines that appear. And seeing headlines, for example, 20 years experience and family owned and operated, that doesn't really give clear context as to what you offer. And those headlines might be getting a lot of clicks but no conversions to show for it, because they don't clearly indicate, what's being offered when they land on the landing page. And so one of the most important points to really mention when it comes to ad copy is relevance. So in this landscaping ad, for example, we want to make sure that landscaping is mentioned multiple times throughout, not just in our headline, but also in both of our descriptions as well, because we want to make sure our ad copy is highly lined up with the keywords of that ad group. And that kind of brings us on to our next point as well, which is having tightly themed ad groups. So you might want to have a crazy number of active ad groups, especially if you're limited by budget, but you want to make sure that the intent between the keywords of that ad group and the ad copy of that ad group is the exact same. So let's just take another ad group like artificial grass installation, for example, like you see here. The headlines and descriptions of these ads are all specific to artificial grass installation, so not just landscaping. So we're not just trying to run all of our keywords to a generic landscaping ad, but only have the landscaping ad for those that are looking for landscaping. But for artificial grass, then we have specific keywords, as you can see here. So only people that are looking for, anything related to artificial grass installation that have the exact same intent for artificial grass installation are going to see the actual ads for that. And making sure your intent and relevance is on point like this is going to massively increase your overall conversion rate. And we want to be getting as many conversions as possible from the clicks that we're getting, especially, as we have low budget inside Google Ads. And to make sure your ad groups are on point, you want to look at the keywords in each ad group and ask yourself, are all of these keywords highly relevant to the ads of this ad group? And if you think that you could make a more relevant ad by having some of your keywords in a separate ad group, then you can split them up into a new ad group. But at the same time, you do want to focus on, a few core ad groups, because if you have a limited budget, then the chances are you can't afford to be running, 15 to 20 separate ad groups. But I would recommend, having a few, maybe 5 or 6 ad groups that are all highly relevant and tightly themed. What you also want to do on a limited budget is make sure that you have highly optimized landing pages. And what I'll do as well is leave a link to a tutorial on how to build a high converting landing page. Because if you're getting a lot of clicks, then you really want to make sure that you're directing that traffic to a landing page that's actually likely to convert. And doing so with your general website or homepage on a website just isn't likely to convert as well as a regular landing page. And the key to having a highly successful landing page is, first of all, making sure it's relevant. So this is an example of a landing page template that would perform well for landscaping, as you can see here, because it's specifically tailored to somebody that's looking for landscaping. But you also want to make sure it's optimized for conversions as well, in that it has clear call to actions and making it really easy to fill out the form or call directly. Has clear social proof as well, so make sure you have, trust signals like 5-star reviews, and more relevant, so you can go into more of the benefits of why they should choose you and details about the specific service as well, so that your landing page is optimized to actually, convert from the clicks that you get. But also make sure that your landing page is fully mobile optimized as well, because most of the traffic on average that you get from your ads are going to come from mobile. So you want to put just as much attention into the mobile version of the design as desktop. What you also want to do as well, if you're limited on budget, is optimize your ad scheduling so that your ads only run during the times of day that make most sense for you, in terms of being able to respond to leads as soon as possible, but also when the intent is highest. And if you're a service-based company, what I'd recommend doing is that if you have a low budget to work with, is that I'd only start out running, Mondays to Fridays during the hours that you operate. So if that's Monday to Friday from 9 to 5, for example, then I'd recommend running during those hours only. The reason being is that your budget can then be spread across 5 days of the week rather than 7, and focused on the days that customers are most likely to convert, because usually the intent is a bit higher on weekdays because people have less time on their hands during the week, and are usually a lot more serious about getting a job done if they call you on, a Wednesday morning, for example, versus a Saturday or a Sunday, if people aren't working and, they're looking at all the companies that are running ads and, turning into leads on everybody's landing page. Usually the interest is a lot higher, but it completely varies from company to company when it makes most sense to run your ads. But the whole point here is to optimize your ads for when you think is most likely to perform best, and not to be running your ads 24/7, especially when limited on budget. This also applies just as much to locations as well. So, as a service based business, the chances are that you only want to target a specific location, anyways. But if you are even more limited on budget, then you don't need to target the full county or area that you're based in, But if there are specific towns that are worth more to you than others, then I would also target those rather than, the full county. So that way, then you're really focusing on the areas that are likely to perform best for you. And with a low budget, it really is just trying to optimize what you can work with and, really focus on things that are likely to perform as well as possible. And that's also why, as well, what you want to do is go to all campaigns, go to recommendations, and not follow all of Google's recommendations because, as you can see here, we have an optimization score of about 34%. And if we were to allow all of these recommendations, then we'd be handing over so much control to Google and they would just start, automating a lot of the processes that, we've set up in our specific way. And we'd probably end up just getting a lot of wasted clicks and no conversions to show for it. And what you also want to do as well is go to auto apply here and just make sure that your auto apply recommendations are turned off as well. Because if you have these turned on, then Google will start making ads on your behalf, adding broad match keywords, and anything else that they can think of to really just get your budget to spend more than it should and just get you a lot of irrelevant clicks that aren't likely to turn into conversions. And when it comes to setting your daily budget then as well, what you want to do to, be as flexible as possible within budget is when we were selecting our top of bid high range or our maximum cost per click bid limit that we talked about at the beginning of the video, we said that if we were to set it as about €7 or €8, for example, that we want to give ourselves enough budget to get about 10 clicks per day. So what I would do is that if you set your maximum cost per click bid limit to 7, for example, then ideally if you can try and set your daily budget for around 70 if that fits within your budget, because that's going to allow you to optimize a lot quicker than if you only had enough budget to get, 2 or 3 clicks per day. But I'm aware that a lot of local businesses, can't afford to spend, 10 times the top of bid high range per day every single day, but that's just a general guideline on what the optimal daily budget is to go with. Now, I hope this video helped and gave you clarity on what to do as a local business if you're limited by budget and don't have a crazy amount to spend inside Google Ads. Now, if you do have any questions at all about anything that we went through in this video or anything else related to Google Ads in general, feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you are a service-based company looking for further help refining your own campaigns, feel free to have a look at the link in the description down below. And if you do like this Google Ads related content as well, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel as we'll be posting all things related to Google Ads here daily. And hopefully we'll see you in the next video.